Hello, my name is Ronald Dawson, and this is my presentation entitled A Need for More Technical Vocational Education. So in the introduction here, the main topic is identifying a gap in education, and mine was the belief the United States education system needs to invest in more technical vocation schools and courses. The four areas I'm going to focus on in this presentation are looking at significant statistical failures of the educational system, successes of technical vocational schools in Europe. The third will be theories and research that advocate for these CTE courses. And the last section will be viable ways to implement technical vocational schools in the United States. So this problem came to my mind. I was watching a video entitled "Do Schools Kill Creativity?" And in this video, he talks about how since the United States is such a homogenous system in which students are all kind of molded to be this one particular educated academic type, many students kind of fail and underperform in this pressure because they don't fit the bill of a person who wants to sit still, talk about education, read and write, and do these things. So that kind of started my first problem is like, we're doing a disservice to these students. Next, I came into research that two-thirds of students do not attend or complete college or university level education. And I was thinking then if only one-third of students do complete college or some kind of university degree, then why are we training two-thirds of students to fail and not actually accomplish what only a third of their peers are doing? Next, I was just doing more research. Over 1 million students drop out of school each year. I'm just like, it's 1 million students who are going into the world unprepared and don't have a viable option sometimes of like what they're going to do for their path. So I finally asked myself, like, what does it mean to really prepare students for future careers? What does it look like? And I was thinking CTE courses, vocational opportunities, that seems more beneficial than just traditional schooling for all students. So those problems in mind, I did some research and looked into what some European countries were doing in regards to vocational technical schools. And first in Austria, there's like a highly selective, extensive dual apprenticeship program incorporated into the educational system. Students have two options: one to go more traditional schooling path, or to go more vocational centric kind of path. Within both of those systems, students can test into higher level, more elite, more academic kind of focuses in the academic course, or test into higher, more functioning kind of vocational schools, so students have options based upon their abilities and their interests. In England, it's a very similar kind of structure as well, except for they have 8 other options. They're more diverse with their opportunities, so the students have more choices. But in analyzing the English system, there is a very negative stigma there. This quote from Bartram Tech says the English education rhetoric is based on the assumption that the academic system is a superior educational currency, even though the majority of students move directly into a labor force. So a lot of students are going to the labor force and going into these programs, but there's a stigma of it's not as good. These students aren't going to be as prepared as their university attending peers, and that's kind of where the system is failing them, is the English system is not really making it um, apparent that these are viable and solid choices that are just not the same ones that university students make. So in the positive aspect of England, they have shown success in the areas of completion of 72% of the students that go in complete and come out with a job or apprenticeship in a possible career, while Austria's completion is stronger with an 85%. So both countries show that. Also, both countries have low unemployment rate for the youth, so there are some definite positives to these programs there. Next, looking at Germany and their vocational schooling, trainees split their days between classroom instruction at a vocational school and on the job at a company. The theory they learn in class is reinforced by the practice at work, which is beneficial in my opinion, as students always say to me, when am I going to use this in the real world? But the students in these classes, whether it's a full school or a CTE course, they're learning skills that are directly going to correlate to what they'll be tested on, as well as what will be used in the workforce. Next, discussing theories and research. So the andragogical theory, based upon Knowles here, or Malcolm Knowles rather, is he discusses how adults learn in adult education, and the first tenet I got from there was this quote: "Adults are motivated to learn as they experience needs and interests that learning will satisfy. Therefore, these are appropriate starting points for organizing adult learning activities. High schoolers are on the cusp of adulthood. From freshman to senior year, they're looking into what do they want to be, what are their skills, what do they want to do for the rest of their life. So, implementing this theory into CTE courses seems extremely beneficial to students as they're figuring out who they want to be. Well, they should be involved in classes that are giving them skills about who they can be within their abilities and interests. Next, I did some research via the study by Bishop and Maine. They kind of analyzed the success rates of CTE courses within 19 countries across the globe. And this is what they found. They said analysis of international cross-section data found that nations enrolling a large portion of upper secondary students in vocational programs have significantly higher school attendance rates and higher upper secondary completion rates. That means students going to these courses complete courses more often and show up to school more often because they have a buy-in. They have a course they really want to get involved into besides just these traditional four subjects of math, science, social studies, and language arts that are important, but they're not the buy-in for a lot of these students. Finally, the research I did was by researchers Van Houten and Van Male. They in their study they showed that students felt like they belonged in their school because they were supported and trusted by their teachers in these CTE courses. These CTE courses have heavy mechanic or higher responsibility equipment that the students are involved and held responsible for. And since they felt trusted, they felt more involved in those courses. They felt like they belonged in these courses as opposed to traditional sites. Next, I have some 3 steps to take, kind of implement CTE courses and kind of push for a better future. So some of the practices and solutions I have is number 1, removing the stigma with technical and vocational occupations in schooling. Teachers need to take the lead, school leaders, congressmen, whoever is involved in getting funding and pushing forward for these courses need to be like, the stigma should not be there. Students that go to university have an important path, but students that go into vocational schools and occupations have a just as important path and job as anyone else. Next, investing more money into establishing CTE courses in high schools across the country. Every high school should have at least one CTE course or vocational pathway for students. There should be more, but at the very least, starting somewhere, making sure everyone has a chance for these kids to learn important skills and career paths. Finally, taking a huge leap is implementing full-on vocational schooling systems within the United States. That's going to be hard to do by shifts, by kind of doing a whole entire reorganization of a system, kind of like what Austria, England, and Germany, the European schools are doing. That's years ahead, but that's something we should look into and seeing if is that viable for a lot of students that need more vocational schooling. Finally, in conclusion, a couple points here is millions of students are not receiving quality education that is geared to their passions and abilities, and that's a disservice to them. We as educators need to find ways to get them involved and back into the system. Technical and vocational education programs can benefit these students by preparing them for their futures. Next, increase attendance and graduation rates and lowering the dropout and unemployment rates are really essential and important to making the United States education system look strong. It's strong. A lot of great things are happening, but reducing these lower rates and increasing these more important rates is going to help us in the future. And finally, if you truly want to be adhering to the idea of college and career readiness in high schools, then we need to really focus on the career readiness. College is important, and a third of our students are going to go to that, but 2/3 that are not going to complete or not entirely go to college at all, we need to help them out as well by giving them some options. Finally, here are my references. Please look through those. And finally, thank you for your time for listening to my presentation.